Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Better You in English. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic. We're going to explore how wealthy people think about money. More specifically, we're going to examine the mindset differences between those who build wealth and those who struggle financially. This is very important. Understanding these differences isn't just about money. It's about transforming how you approach life, success, and your future. Rich people don't just have more money. They think fundamentally differently. They make different decisions. They prioritize different things. They see the world through a different lens. Let me say this again. Wealth isn't just about what you have. It's about how you think. Today, I'm going to share 7 powerful principles with you. These are principles that successful people follow consistently. These are mindsets that separate the wealthy from the average. These are ideas that, if you implement them, can completely change your financial trajectory. But here's the thing: knowledge alone won't help you. You need to internalize these concepts. You need to practice them daily. You need to make them part of who you are. Are you ready to challenge your assumptions? Are you ready to think differently? Let's begin. Principle 1: Rich people see money as a tool, not a goal. Let's start with the first principle. This one might surprise you. Rich people don't obsess over money itself. Instead, they see money as a tool. They view it as a means to an end, not the end itself. Let me say this again. Money is a tool, not a goal. Poor people often think, "I want to be rich." Rich people think, "I want to create value, solve problems, and build something meaningful." The money follows naturally. Think about the most successful entrepreneurs you know. Steve Jobs didn't wake up thinking, "I want to make billions." He woke up thinking, "I want to create products that change people's lives." The billions came as a consequence. This is very important. When you focus solely on accumulating money, you often miss the bigger picture. When you focus on creating value, providing solutions, and serving others, wealth becomes a natural byproduct. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine 2 people starting a business. Person A thinks, "How can I make as much money as possible?" They cut corners. They charge high prices for mediocre products. They focus on short-term profits. Eventually, customers leave. The business fails. Person B thinks, "How can I solve a real problem for people?" They focus on quality. They build genuine relationships. They reinvest in improvement. Customers become loyal. The business grows. Money flows in naturally. Do you see the difference? It's a complete shift in perspective. Rich people understand that money is stored value. It represents the value you've created for others. The more value you create, the more money you can earn. It's that simple, yet that profound. Let me say this again. Stop chasing money. Start creating value. The money will follow. Here's what you should do instead: ask yourself, what problems can I solve? Ask, how can I serve others better? Ask, what value can I uniquely provide? When you shift your focus from getting to giving, from taking to creating, from earning to serving, something magical happens. You become more valuable. And when you're more valuable, you naturally attract more wealth. This is very important. Money flows toward value. Be valuable, and money will find you. Remember, rich people see money as a tool, not a goal. They focus on creating value, and wealth follows naturally. Principle 2: Rich people invest in appreciating assets. Now let's talk about the second principle. This is about what you do with your money. Rich people consistently invest in assets that appreciate over time. Poor people spend on things that depreciate. Let me say this again. Rich people buy things that go up in value. Poor people buy things that go down in value. What does appreciate mean? It means something increases in value over time. What does depreciate mean? It means something loses value over time. Let me break this down with clear examples. A new car is a depreciating asset. The moment you drive it off the lot, it loses 20% of its value. After 5 years, it might be worth half of what you paid. You spent money, and that money disappeared. A rental property is an appreciating asset. Over time, real estate generally increases in value. Meanwhile, tenants pay you rent every month. You spent money, and that money multiplies. This is very important. Every dollar you spend is a choice. You can choose to spend it on something that loses value, or you can invest it in something that gains value. Poor people buy luxury items that impress others temporarily. They buy expensive cars, designer clothes, and the latest gadgets. These things make them feel successful briefly, but they drain wealth consistently. Rich people buy assets that generate income and appreciate. They buy stocks that pay dividends. They buy businesses that generate cash flow. They buy real estate that provides rental income. They buy skills and education that increase their earning potential. Let me say this again. What you buy today determines your wealth tomorrow. Here's a powerful framework to think about this. Before you make any purchase, ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1: Is this an asset or a liability? An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Question 2: Will this increase in value or decrease in value? If it decreases, think very carefully before buying. Question 3: Is there a better use for this money? Could you invest it instead? Could you use it to acquire an appreciating asset? This is very important. Delayed gratification is the price of wealth. Spending now feels good immediately but hurts you long-term. Investing now might feel boring, but it enriches you long-term. Let me give you a real-world scenario. You have $5,000 saved up. Option A: buy a luxury watch. You enjoy wearing it for a few years. After 5 years, it's worth maybe $2,000. You lost $3,000. Option B: invest in an index fund. You can't wear it or show it off. After 5 years, with average market returns, it's worth around $8,000. You gained $3,000. That's a $6,000 difference in outcome. Multiply this across dozens of decisions over decades, and you can see why some people build wealth while others don't. Let me say this again. Rich people sacrifice immediate pleasure for long-term wealth. Poor people sacrifice long-term wealth for immediate pleasure. The good news? You can start changing this today. Start small. Before your next purchase, pause. Ask those 3 questions. Make one better decision. Then another. Then another. Over time, these small decisions compound into massive wealth. Remember, rich people invest in appreciating assets. Poor people spend on depreciating items. Choose wisely. Principle 3: Rich people embrace continuous learning. Let's move to the third principle. This one is about personal growth. Rich people are committed to continuous learning. They never stop educating themselves. They constantly expand their knowledge and skills. Let me say this again. Rich people are perpetual students. They read, study, and learn throughout their entire lives. There's a famous statistic: the average millionaire reads 1 book per week. That's 52 books per year. Meanwhile, the average person reads less than 1 book per year. Why does this matter so much? Because we live in a knowledge economy. The more you know, the more you can earn. The more skills you have, the more value you can create. This is very important. Your earning potential is directly tied to your learning commitment. Think about it logically. If you have the same knowledge today as you did 5 years ago, why would you earn more? If you have the same skills, why would you be more valuable? Rich people understand this deeply. They invest heavily in their education, not just formal degrees, but continuous self-education. They read books about business, psychology, economics, and leadership. They take online courses to learn new technologies. They attend seminars and conferences. They hire coaches and mentors. They surround themselves with people smarter than themselves. Let me say this again. Your mind is your most valuable asset. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Poor people often stop learning after school ends. They think education is a phase of life, not a lifelong practice. They watch TV instead of reading books. They consume entertainment instead of consuming knowledge. Let me give you a comparison. Let's look at how 2 people spend their evening. Person A comes home from work, turns on the TV, watches shows for 3 hours, then goes to bed. This happens every day. After 1 year, Person A has watched over 1,000 hours of TV. Person A has learned almost nothing valuable. Person A has the same skills and knowledge. Person B comes home from work, reads for 1 hour, then takes an online course for 30 minutes. After 1 year, Person B has read 50 books and completed several valuable courses. Person B has dramatically expanded their knowledge and skills. Person B is now qualified for better opportunities. This is very important. How you spend your free time determines your future. Rich people treat their time like a precious resource. They ask, is this activity making me better? They ask, am I learning something valuable? They ask, is this moving me toward my goals? Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, spends 80% of his day reading. Bill Gates reads about 50 books per year. Elon Musk learned to build rockets by reading books. Let me say this again. Reading is the most cost-effective way to gain knowledge from the world's smartest people. Here's what I want you to do: commit to reading for 30 minutes every day. Choose books about money, business, psychology, or skills you want to develop. In 1 year, you'll read approximately 20 books. That's 20 mentors teaching you their lifetime of wisdom. Also, invest in courses and training. If a course costs $500 but teaches you a skill that increases your income by $5,000 per year, that's a 10x return. That's an incredible investment. This is very important. The return on investing in yourself is unlimited. No stock, no real estate, no business can match it. Remember, rich people embrace continuous learning. They never stop growing. They invest in their minds constantly. You should too. Principle 4: Rich people think long-term. Now we come to the fourth principle. This is about time perspective. Rich people think in decades. Poor people think in days or weeks. Let me say this again. Rich people have a long-term orientation. Poor people have a short-term orientation. This difference in time perspective affects every decision they make. It shapes how they spend money, how they invest, how they build businesses, and how they live their lives. Poor people ask, "What do I want right now?" Rich people ask, "What do I want my life to look like in 10 years?" This is very important. Your time horizon determines your decisions. Your decisions determine your outcomes. Let me explain this with concrete examples. When it comes to money, poor people think about today's pleasures. I want to buy this now. I deserve to enjoy myself today. Life is short, why wait? Rich people think about tomorrow's freedom. If I invest this money now, I'll have financial independence later. If I sacrifice today, I'll have options tomorrow. Short-term pain leads to long-term gain. When it comes to career, poor people think about this month's paycheck. They stay in jobs they dislike because it pays the bills today. They avoid risk because it might affect next month's income. Rich people think about decade-long trajectories. They might take a pay cut to join a startup with huge potential. They invest time in building skills that will pay off years later. They make strategic moves that don't pay immediately but compound over time. Let me say this again. Playing the long game always beats playing the short game. Here's a powerful example: compound interest. If you invest $10,000 at age 25 and let it grow at 10% annually, by age 65, you'll have approximately $452,000. That's 45 times your original investment. But if you wait until age 35 to invest that same $10,000, by age 65, you'll have only about $174,000. Waiting just 10 years cost you $278,000. This is very important. Time is the most powerful multiplier of wealth. The earlier you start thinking long-term, the wealthier you become. Rich people understand exponential growth. They know that small actions today become massive results tomorrow. They plant trees whose shade they may never sit under. Poor people want immediate results. If something doesn't pay off quickly, they give up. They lack patience. They can't see beyond next week. Let me give you another example. Two people want to get in shape. Person A joins a gym with a goal of looking good for an event next month. Person A works out intensely for 3 weeks. The event passes. Person A stops going to the gym. Person A is back to being out of shape. Person B joins a gym with a goal of being healthy at age 70. Person B doesn't obsess over daily results. Person B focuses on consistency. Person B works out 3 times per week, every week, for years. After a decade, Person B is incredibly fit and healthy. Do you see the difference? Same starting point, different time horizons, completely different outcomes. Let me say this again. Think in decades, not days. Think in years, not weeks. Here's how to apply this principle before making any significant decision. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this decision in 10 years? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, reconsider. When you're tempted to spend money frivolously, think, what if I invested this instead? What would it become in 20 years? When you're choosing between an easy path and a challenging path, think, which path leads to where I want to be in 10 years? This is very important. Your future self is watching your current decisions. Make choices that your future self will thank you for. Jeff Bezos has a decision-making framework called the regret minimization framework. He asks, when I'm 80 years old, will I regret not doing this? This long-term thinking led him to start Amazon. Remember, rich people think long-term. They delay gratification. They invest in their future selves. Start thinking in decades, and your life will transform. Principle 5: Rich people take responsibility. Let's discuss the 5th principle. This is about ownership. Rich people take complete responsibility for their lives. Poor people blame external circumstances. Let me say this again. Rich people own their results. Poor people make excuses. This might sound harsh, but it's one of the most crucial differences. Let me explain why. When something goes wrong, poor people say, the economy is bad. My boss doesn't appreciate me. I didn't have the right opportunities. My family wasn't wealthy. The system is rigged against me. When something goes wrong, rich people say, what did I do wrong? How can I improve? What can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? This is very important. Blame gives you an excuse. Responsibility gives you power. When you blame external factors, you position yourself as a victim. Victims are powerless. Victims can't change their situation because it's not their fault. When you take responsibility, you position yourself as the creator of your life. Creators are powerful. Creators can change anything because everything is within their control. Let me say this again. Taking responsibility is empowering. Making excuses is disempowering. Let me give you a clear example. Two people lose their jobs. Person A says, "The company treated me unfairly. My boss had it out for me. I was doing everything right, but politics got in the way. There's nothing I could have done differently." Person B says, "I didn't see the signs. I should have been building my skills more actively. I could have networked better. I should have been more proactive about my career. Next time, I'll be better prepared." Who do you think will be more successful in their next job? Who will grow? Who will improve? Person A learned nothing. Person A will repeat the same patterns. Person A will likely lose another job and blame others again. Person B learned valuable lessons. Person B will adapt and improve. Person B will be stronger in the next opportunity. This is very important. Responsibility is the gateway to growth. Without responsibility, there's no improvement. Rich people understand this deeply. They know that even when things aren't their fault, they're still their responsibility. Yes, you might have been born into a poor family. That's not your fault. But your future is still your responsibility. Yes, the economy might be struggling. That's not your fault. But your career is still your responsibility. Yes, you might have faced discrimination or hardship. That's not your fault. But your response is still your responsibility. Let me say this again. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. This principle extends to everything. Rich people don't wait for perfect conditions. They create opportunities. They don't wait for permission. They take initiative. They don't wait to be discovered. They promote themselves. Poor people wait for things to happen to them. Rich people make things happen. Here's a practical framework. Replace "I can't" with "How can I?" Replace "It's impossible" with "What would it take?" Replace "They won't let me" with "How can I create my own path?" This is very important. Your language shapes your reality. Victim language creates victim results. Responsibility language creates powerful results. I want you to do an exercise. For the next week, catch yourself whenever you make an excuse or blame something external. Stop. Reframe it. Ask yourself, what's my part in this? What can I control? What can I do about it? This simple shift in mindset can change everything. When you take responsibility, you take control. When you take control, you create the life you want. Remember, rich people take complete responsibility for their lives. Poor people make excuses. Choose responsibility, choose power. Principle 6: Rich people build multiple income streams. Now for the sixth principle. This is about income diversity. Rich people don't rely on one source of income. They build multiple streams of revenue. Poor people typically have only one income source: their job. Let me say this again. Rich people have multiple income streams. Poor people have one income stream. Why does this matter so much? Let me explain. Having only one income source is incredibly risky. If you lose your job, your income goes to zero immediately. You're completely vulnerable. You have no safety net. You're at the mercy of your employer. Having multiple income streams provides security, flexibility, and exponential growth potential. If you lose one stream, you still have others. You're protected. You have options. You're diversified. This is very important. Financial security comes from income diversity, not income size. Think about it this way. Person A earns $100,000 per year from one job. Person B earns $100,000 per year from 5 different sources, $20,000 each. They earn the same amount, but person B is much more secure. If person A loses their job, they lose everything. If person B loses one income stream, they still have 80% of their income. Let me say this again. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your income. So what are these different income streams? Let me give you some examples. First, earned income from your primary job. This is active income. You trade time for money. Second, business income from a side business or freelancing. This could be consulting, coaching, selling products, or providing services. Third, investment income from stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. These pay dividends and appreciate over time. Fourth, rental income from real estate. Properties generate monthly cash flow from tenants. Fifth, royalty income from intellectual property. This could be from books, courses, patents, or digital products you create once and sell repeatedly. Sixth, interest income from savings or peer-to-peer lending. Seventh, affiliate or commission income from referring products or services. This is very important. Rich people actively work to create these different streams. They don't happen by accident. Let me give you a realistic example of how someone builds this over time. Year 1 to 2, you focus on your job and increase your income through promotions and skills development. You start saving and investing 20% of your income in index funds. Year 3 to 4, you start a side business based on your expertise. Maybe freelance consulting or an online course. This brings in an extra $500 to $1,000 per month. Year 5 to 6, you've saved enough to make a down payment on a rental property. This generates $500 per month in cash flow after expenses. Year 7 to 8, you've built your side business to the point where it generates $2,000 to $3,000 per month. Your investments have grown significantly. Your rental property has appreciated. Now you have 4 income streams: your job, your business, your investments, and your rental income. If you lose your job, you don't panic. You have time and options. Let me say this again. Building multiple income streams takes time, but it's absolutely worth it. Here's what I want you to do. Don't try to build 5 income streams tomorrow. That's overwhelming. Instead, focus on adding one additional stream this year. Ask yourself, what skills do I have that people would pay for? What could I teach others? What service could I provide? What product could I create? Start small. Even an extra $500 per month from a side stream makes a huge difference over time. This is very important. The goal isn't just more money. It's financial resilience and freedom. Remember, rich people build multiple income streams. Poor people rely on one source. Start diversifying today, and you'll build unshakable financial security. All right, everyone, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's recap the 7 principles that separate wealthy thinking from average thinking. Principle 1: Rich people see money as a tool, not a goal. Focus on creating value, not chasing dollars. Principle 2: Rich people invest in appreciating assets. Buy things that increase in value over time. Principle 3: Rich people embrace continuous learning. Never stop educating yourself. Principle 4: Rich people think long-term. Make decisions based on where you want to be in 10 years. Principle 5: Rich people take responsibility. Own your results completely. Principle 6: Rich people build multiple income streams. Diversify your revenue sources. This is very important. These aren't just theoretical concepts. These are practical principles you can implement starting today. Let me say this again. Knowledge without action is worthless. You must apply these principles consistently to see results. Here's my challenge to you: choose one principle that resonated most with you. Just one. For the next 30 days, focus on implementing that principle in your daily life. Notice what changes. Notice how you feel. Notice the results. After 30 days, add another principle. Then another. Over time, you'll completely transform your relationship with money and success. Remember, becoming wealthy isn't about luck or inheritance or privilege, although those can help. It's primarily about mindset. It's about how you think, how you make decisions, and how you approach life. This is very important. You have the power to change your thinking today. And when you change your thinking, you change your results. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, think differently, act deliberately, and build the wealth you deserve. Take care, everyone.